I'm here with Landon Michelson, the connected instructor in the house. Pleasure to have you, brother.
Thank you so much for having me, Leo. I'm glad that we're finally getting this podcast started. We've been talking about it for too long, so it's glad that we finally did something. Stop being lazy sacks.
Way too long. I'm
Well,
excited to get this rolling. We're going to have such good guests on the podcast. We're going to talk about some interesting topics, starting with Landon today. But I mean, the Stay Connected podcast, to me, the purpose of it behind is, just to really understand the mindset of these elite performers. Landon, I've been alongside him now for, what, 5 to 8 years now, maybe?
it's been a
Maybe
minute.
a
It's
little
been a
more.
minute.
And Landon's definitely a high performer, definitely a high performance golfer. Now as the connected instructor, giving very valuable wisdom alongside me and many other instructors out there that are adding value to the game. But Landon, you've had a pretty interesting, introduction to golf. I want to kind of start there because I started golf when I was 3 years old, started competing when I was 7, but you were introduced to the game a lot later than that. But you were still able to play, professional golf. You played professional golf for 8 years, and many tours, Latin America, Canada, all of that. And I'd love to really know why you started golf.
Mm, that's a very good question, Leo. That's a very good way to start. Why did I start playing golf? Well, I mean, I always wanted to be a professional athlete. So I grew up playing baseball. I was obsessed with baseball. Like all I wanted to do was just play baseball all the time, and I wanted to be a professional baseball player. But then I realized that I wasn't big enough, strong enough, fast enough to be able to compete with those people. So I kind of figured that out at about 12 or 13 years old. And, maybe if I'd hit puberty, like life would be a little bit different, or hit puberty a little earlier. I think I've hit puberty since then. So when we have a family house up in Vermont. I was up in Vermont with my uncle. My uncle's the only person in my family who really plays golf, my uncle and my aunt. And we got done watching the British Open. I was like, oh, that looks kind of fun. Like, take me golfing. So we grabbed like a shag bag of balls, an old set of clubs that was up in the attic, and we go out to this baseball field out in our town. And we start hitting balls off the dirt. And he's like, wow, you're actually not bad at this. And I was like, all right, sweet, let's go. So we drove over to a 9-hole golf course. We're like, let's go play. First drive, 250 right down the middle. He's like, what? And I mean, I proceeded to make like a 24 on the hole because apparently this short game is hard or something. I don't know. Um, but that was really what got me into it. It was never like I was driven to do this or I really had a calling for it. It was just one day I started doing it and was pretty good at it, kind of from the rip. I mean, good at it as in like I had some success. I got the ball up in the air and hit it forward, and then I was able to fall in love with it and just become so obsessed with it to the point where it was like that's all that I did. Like I had no friends, no nothing. It was just like golf, 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 golf.
Yeah, that's awesome, bro. I mean, that's I really want to dive into that because it's that mindset of obsession sometimes that really gets people from good to great, and what kind of got you connected to the game. I would say I'm very similar to that as well, and that's probably why we gravitated towards each other, just grinding in the chipping green, back in the day how we started. But I mean, to me, you've gained so much knowledge over the years on the game. Like you're truly a very studious, individual when it comes to golf,
Sorry,
and,
you can call me a nerd. It's fine.
you can you can really dissect the game, in and out. And it's honestly pretty remarkable how well you've been able to narrow it down and understand the golf motion and how to also like translate that to others. But I mean, I'm sure it wasn't like that since the beginning. You've gone through your fair share of ups and downs. You know, mentioned you played professional golf, but I mean, you played high school golf before that, and then talk to me about the transition from like, wow, like now I'm going to be a pro. Let's do this. Let's start playing in professional golf. How was that transition from like I'm not no longer just doing this. I'm now a professional golfer making a transition over to playing this for a living.
That's a good question. I think, so when I graduated college, we had won conference my senior year, which was a pretty cool achievement. And I'd played poorly my last 2 years. So I went to a small Division III school for my first 2 years and then went to Rice University my last 2 years. And we won conference, which was, a great achievement. After we won conference, I essentially qualified for the US Open. We can talk about that story later. Essentially qualified for the US Open. So I was like, oh wow, I'm good enough to be able to compete with the best players in the world. Like, let's do this. So as I started to play professionally, I don't really think I took it so seriously until like probably 2 years. Right? I guess I didn't really understand what it meant to take it seriously until probably 2 years into my professional career. I was still kind of going about it with the same kind of college golf mindset where it's like, okay, we can do this for, 4 or 5 hours a day and kind of call it. But what I realized was you need to be able to do it every day, all day, and your entire life needs to encompass it. So I think the first time that I really did that was about a year before I qualified for the PGA Tour Latin America, where I took fitness was very seriously, nutrition was much more serious, not no, trim down the nightlife activities, the lady type activities, uh, and really, dove into what is it going to take to play this game at a high level.
And do you think like you've correlated, your transition from college golf to professional golf as like you got to just spend more time on the course, or were you just like more, in tune with other areas of your life that you felt like, oh, I need to start enhancing my, my physical health, my mental health, all these, my emotional health, to be able to be, at an elite level? Because at that point, I mean, you've been, playing golf for a little bit. You've put in time to be pretty competent at it. But it's like, is that all you're going to focus on, or now as a professional golfer, you really got to kind of be holistic?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as a professional golfer, you definitely have to be more holistic. So I, work with a psychologist working on breathing techniques, and meditation, and how are you able to calm your breath under pressure? Because those are the things that I kind of learned as I struggled in final rounds or in final 9 holes or 6 holes or 3 holes. What would happen when that would take place? Things would get too quick. I wasn't able to make good decisions. So I realized the answer is not necessarily on the golf course. The answer is off the golf course. Like, how do I train myself how to breathe? How do I set really good routines? How do I get very, very consistent, with what I'm doing? So definitely the more time spent off the golf course, focusing on the things that I need to do on the golf course was probably a big difference, as well as putting in more work on the golf course and more dedicated, focused, practiced effort, or focused, like diligent effort on what I'm trying to do at practice and being more specific about like, this is what my goal is today and I'm going to achieve it, as opposed to like 1 week I'm working on this, then the next week I'm working on that. And you're never able to like stack successes on another.
And that right there is the key. I mean, how many of us just go out there and just hit balls or practice and not really have a direct intention? And not only that, but one thing that I've realized through my journey as well, and I'm sure you have as well, has been, the power of just getting like one thing done.
Yeah.
Like go out there and just get good at one thing, whether it's just 8 foot putts. Like just focus on one thing. It's so hard to do that because we want to go out there. I mean, the golf course it's a la la land of just like doing whatever you want to do. I mean, you can hit all types of shots, endless types of shots, but
Hmm.
really going in there with an intention, just one club. I'm gonna hit this pitching wedge, all day and see how many shots I can hit with this pitching wedge. You're a very creative guy when it comes to those types of things. Maybe not other things, but in general, you're a pretty creative guy. How have you implemented that? I mean, I feel like that's been a game changer for me. How has it helped you?
Yeah, like really, like I notice it now more when I'm teaching, like because I'm essentially being the person's brain, being like, this is exactly what we're gonna do. But, really focusing on the GPS of the golf swing, the grip, posture, and setup. So being able to get those pieces and those elements correct. Like I don't know if you've seen the video of like Scotty Scheffler's with the training club with the grip every single day before his round. It's like the best player in the world, and he's focusing on his grip. So it's like if every day you can say, hey, my intention is to get my setup just a little bit better. I'm going to make sure that my setup is super solid. I'm not going to hit a shot unless I'm completely committed to it. Or if I'm working on something technical, it's like, okay, I'm just going to make sure that I'm getting this amount of shoulder turn at this point in the swing. Or it's like, hey, I'm just working on start line with putting. Or I'm just focused on how do I create an atmosphere of fluidity? How do I create an atmosphere of freedom when I hit these shots? And
Yeah.
so that definitely like focusing on just one thing at a time. And so like, when you were people at home, if they're working with their swing coach, it's like, okay, they may have two or three things that they're kind of working on. If you just focus on one of them, you say, hey, look, I'm working on, can I get my footwork good for these five swings? Then can I get my, you know, my right arm in the takeaway the way I want to for these five swings? And then how do I swing with good tempo for the next five? And then just put it all together on the last one, not thinking. So being able to one little thing at a time.
Yeah, segment it out. I mean, one of the things I've implemented is like, setting intentions, but setting physical, mental, and emotional intentions. Even like before a round of golf, let's say a competitive round of golf, you're setting a physical intention of like, okay, this is like physically like what I want to feel with my body.
Hmm.
You're setting a mental intention, like this is the process that I'm going to be going through for each one of my shots. And then you're setting an emotional intention where it's like, okay, like I realize I get very, anxious when these types of scenarios pop up. In today's round, I'm going to make sure it's an intention to stay calm, to stay in that alpha brainwave, that keeps us connected. The stay connected philosophy to me kind of comes down to three pillars where you stay connected to the moment so you can stay connected to what you love, so you can stay connected to who you are. Because if you're not connected to the moment, you can't really be in tune with your heart center, your what you love. You're like
Hmm.
you're aware. You're like, okay, like now that I'm here, I'm present. I can truly be aware of like what it is that I love to do, and how I love to do it. And then once you're connected to that, that's when you're truly connected to who you are. You're operating from this frequency of just abundance, compassion, and just freedom and connection. So, to me, I've implemented, things into my life that has helped me, stay connected to the moment, stay connected to the things that I love, and stay connected to who I am. What are some of the things that you've implemented to stay connected to the moment?
Did you write this down or is this off the top of your head? This is a good question.
No, off the top. I mean, I was thinking about it as we were, discussing a little bit, but this is a philosophy that I've had, now for a bit, just because I think it's just, a direct, funnel to being connected in life.
So, okay, let's break this down. So, I really like this. So it's you have a physical intention, you have a mental intention, and a emotional intention.
Correct.
Cool. So physical intention. Are you asking like for like a round of golf?
So let's say day before a tournament, you're getting
Mm.
ready to get, out there and play. What would be, like a physical intention? But before we get into that, my actual question was like, what are some practices that you do to stay connected to the moment?
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just gonna give you like physical practices to stay connected to the moment. Definitely just feeling what is going on. So like if you're walking, what do your toes feel like when they hit the ground? What's the cadence of your step? How like what is your breathing like? Is it deep? Is it shallow? Is it fast? Is it slow? What do things look like? Just calling things out and bringing more attention to what it is that you're doing. It's very easy to just like rapid fire and not even like pay attention to kind of what's happening, but just paying attention to the moment or paying attention to your breath, paying attention to things like how your shirt feels on you. How does your watch feel on your wrist? Um, counting your breathing. For me, I like counting stuff, which helps me kind of stay more in that present moment. And then something I would do on the golf course is pick a distance way out, or pick something in the distance way out, like a tree, and then you look at that point out there, zoom all the way in to, like, imagine you're like a telescope, and it's like zoom, 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 and then once you're there, zoom out so you see everything, and then back in and then back out, and that kind of brings you into something, and then you're aware of everything, and then you're in, and then you're aware of everything. That for me has always been my go-to when I'm on the golf course, at least.
That's a really good one. I'm gonna start implementing that because that's just kind of training your awareness to kind of operate. That's awesome. So to me, one of the things that I talk about in my online course, the connection formula, is really getting dialed in on what you're passionate about. So I have my top three passions in life.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Hold on, hold on, hold on. But before we put a pin in this one, I don't think we're done talking about what we were talking about. I think that's so good. Like your mental intention, your physical intention, and your emotional intention. I think those are three really, really good ones. Because I have a meeting with I'm a high school golf coach this year. I'm trying it out. We have a meeting coming up, and I think like that is summed up so perfectly for what every single competitive golfer needs to be focused on. Is when you're going into this round of golf, so you have a physical. So we're essentially going over the golf course via the shot pattern app, where we're looking at it saying, okay, this is where we're going to hit our tee shots. This is going to be our targets on the par threes, yada, yada. So that will be like a mental intention. My mental intention is going to be that I'm going to commit to the game plan that we have set, right? And then, yeah, I think you're muted. And then we have a physical intention, which is going to be unique for everybody. So the physical intention would be, I'm going to feel 20% tempo or 50% tempo, or I'm going to make sure I have soft grip pressure, or I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do something physically. That's kind of what you're referencing, right?
Yeah,
Cool. And then an emotional intention of like, I am going I'm going to accept the results no matter what happens. So if you
yeah,
can have those three intentions, because the physical intention is kind of like pre, during, and post shot routines. It's kind of
yeah,
where I'm going to in my mind, because it's like pre-shot routine. This is my mental intention. I'm committing to this shot no matter what. Physical intention is what I'm committing to over the golf ball, and then emotional intention is what I'm committing to after I hit the shot.
yeah. That's spot on. That's a very good way to put it, and I didn't think about it like that, but I mean, it makes sense to kind of structure it that way. But that's been, it's such an easy way to like just, keep yourself in it. You're not like going for, necessarily a score or any of that. Like you're going to see like how well can I just stay connected to the intentions that I set. That's it. And then like if I can just do that and be immersed in that process, most likely, I'm gonna feel good. I'm gonna feel confident about my ability to execute. Because to me, at the end of the day, I was thinking about this today. You know, we all want to win. We all want to, be champions. And at at the end of the day, to be able to do that, you got to be confident in your ability to execute at any moment. So, how do you train the confidence to execute in every moment?
For sure. So confidence is the result, the feeling of being able to confidence is a, setting out to achieve something and achieving it. So if your confidence is based off of the result of the shot, like, it's up to the golf gods. You can hit a great shot, it hits a sprinkler head and goes in the water. Are you going to be mad? No. But if your confidence comes from, I set my process and I stuck with it, then next time you're going to have confidence plus one. You do it again, confidence plus two. Do it again, confidence plus three. Then all of a sudden, you're doing great. I interviewed Brandon Robinson Thompson on my podcast a couple days ago, and he essentially said this exact thing. Like he went from somebody who, when we were playing together, he was probably, I don't know, 1,700 in the world with me, and then when now he's 300 in the world. And I was like, Brandon, like what's kind of changed? He said, I accept every shot, the result of every single shot, no matter what. And he's like, okay, I'm sticking to my process, and I have 100% control of that. And he said, his last tournament that he played, he won by 8 shots or something like that, and he only had 2 or 3 shots that he didn't go through his process on. So it's like, if you can do that, you have 100% control of it, regardless of who you are. If you're a beginner golfer, you say, hey, I'm just going to smile and have a great time out here.
100%. And there's a finer line there because I mean, I talk about this in my ebook, The Connected Golfer Manual, which if you guys haven't gotten yet, go check it out, theconnectedgolfer.com.
Just the
Even though it's the
shameless
first
plug.
episode,
The
try not
shameless
to.
plug, just like your Instagram, just a bunch of shameless plugs.
You got to, because what I talk about is there's a sensation that each golfer feels when they hit a great shot. It's that sensation of like, like you're extremely grateful. Uh,
Yeah.
how are you able to replicate that feeling shot after shot? And to me, it comes down to developing a process that you're like, okay, like this to me is a process that I know if I execute this, like I did pretty good. I did the things that I needed to do to control what I could control. But there's a feeling that you get because you're actually positioning yourself in a position where you can win in a shot because it's not about the actual result, it's about you going through the process. So that feeling of winning in each shot that you get builds your confidence through every shot that you hit. And it's a legitimate feeling of winning. It's like, dude, like wow, like felt really good. I went through my entire and I talk about the process. To me, it's a whole 9 step process that I go through, a thought process. It's a routine that I utilize for each one of my shots. And it puts me in a zone because I'm no longer just mindlessly thinking and hoping. I'm directing my thought, and I
Mm-hmm.
know that if I can execute this, I'm going to give myself the best chance right now at this current state to succeed from based on what I know. And you guys can crunch time and just get, basically my years of experience in playing golf and simplifying it to a point where it's like, okay, like this is what I use to kind of stay connected throughout the entire swing and the entire motion of the shot. Um, but then craft your own and build your own process that fits you and your rhythm, because everyone's unique. But it's that feeling of gratitude and almost like compassion for like golf that you get after a great shot that you can actually replicate every single shot if you knew how to direct your mind. And that's what we're kind of talking about there, right?
This is a good sales pitch. I like this. I'm still not going to download it, but yeah.
Ooh, I mean that's literally truth what I
No,
talk about.
you're right. You're right. And I think the thing that makes golf so, call it sticky, you have people who get into it and get obsessed with it. I mean, look at you and I, and look at plenty of people. I mean, I was at the driving range today giving a couple lessons, and it's like I see guys out there
Grinding.
every day grinding. And it's like they're just seeking that one moment where they flush it. You know what I mean? And it's like that is, in this world where we get so disconnected and we're so distracted with everything, like that moment when you're there in the present and you have set your algorithm in your brain to like, this is what we are trying to do, and boom, it happens. Man, there just isn't really a better feeling. And I feel like, that's what we're all striving to do. And then like as the level of your game gets higher and higher and higher, now it's like, okay, I can do this on the range as much as I want. That's awesome. But now, can I do it on the first tee of an important tournament? Great. Can I do it when I'm in the lead on the first tee? Can I do it on 18 when I have the lead? And still committing to that process and going through it and just staying blinders on, this is my process. This is what I do. Boom. I remember kind of going back to like my beginning professional days. I remember I was friends with this yoga instructor, and she was like, "Oh, golf is just like a 4 hour meditation." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Golf is so stressful." Da, 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 da. This is before I really understood like the true mental side of it, and it is. It's like, okay, this is my. Can I stay in the present moment for my. The golf swing's 1.5 seconds, and you do it 70 times or whatever that is. Can I stay in the present moment for call it 10 seconds for 700 seconds and then enjoy the walk and do it.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we're in theory like always free, but then we choose suffering. It's like
That's deep.
you're just choosing to suffer. Because I mean, the thing is, like for example, like today, you saw those guys at the range, and you passed by them, they're hitting balls. You know they're just waiting for that flush shot. But if only you can go up to them and tell them, like, dude, like that feeling you're looking for, like you can get it on every shot, regardless of how you hit it. Let's talk about how. Let's free your mind from suffering, and that's what it is. Because the thing is, a lot of these people, like I mean, most golfers, they have like this like mindset. It's kind of like 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 someone addicted to crack. They just can't stop doing it. They go ball after ball after ball, and it's almost like, first of all, you're hurting your nervous system doing this like this, because it's like, bro, it's not healthy to be banging balls on like that. You got to give yourself time between reps. You're not integrating the information, and you're not focusing on the right things to actually feel what you want to feel. And then you get pissed, and then you feel like you're not progressing, but then you're gonna come back tomorrow because you hit that one flush shot. And then it's just like, it's almost like, okay, golf can be a great personal development tool, but it can also be your worst nightmare, and it can lead to a lot of injuries. It can lead to just mental like trauma. Like there's a lot of things that goes into the game, and if you don't properly approach it, you can easily go down the other lane. I mean, we can talk about it. You and I have both experienced like the yips as high level golfers, and it's one of those things that people hear the word, and they start shaking because they
Yeah.
know it's like they know what it feels like, and it's because you don't do the right things on a consistent basis, and you start building those negative patterns, and your brain starts to get stuck, and you're grinding, but you're stuck. You're not getting better, and it's not getting any good, and it's because you're not directing that thought towards the right area. So talk to me about that experience you had, where maybe you had a time in your game where you were suffering, and you were in this negative cycle. How were you able to embrace it and overcome it?
So another good question. Is this written down or is this off the top of your head?
No, I told you I had great questions for you.
You just got them just up here in the dome. Yeah. So I have a very good example of this. So 2021, I think. I don't know, these years. After COVID, all the years kind of run together. Um 2021, I believe. I Yeah, because I turned 30. Yeah, so my funding was up, like had run out to continue to play, and I missed you caddied for me. I missed getting through Q school by like 2 shots or something like that, and just played terrible. Like that front nine was just terrible. Um, and like I was so done. I was like, I'm so sick of this. This is just the worst. I went and
I
caddied for a
remember.
couple. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember caddying for a couple of friends of mine. Like we went to, I think we ended up going to final stage with my buddy Petey, and then I caddied for a buddy of mine at Latin American Q school. And then I'd made enough money, and I was like, I just keep on going. So I played the Jamaican Open. Hadn't touched a golf club in months, and played the Jamaican Open. Had 11 three putts in 3 days and lost by like four. So, but I striked it and just didn't make anything. And I'm flying home with my buddy Eddie, and I'm like, gosh, I'm just lamenting about how terrible of a putter I am. I'm like, God, I'm just such a bad putter, such a bad putter, such a bad putter. He's like, will you shut up? He's like, I can't listen to you talk like this anymore. He's like, if you talk like this on my college golf team, you would literally have to eat dinner alone. So and he was flying home to spend a week with me or whatever. He's like, I'm gonna fly home if you keep on saying this. He's like, you have to say that you are the best putter in the world. Well, the second best putter because he said that he was the best putter. So he made me repeat this literally every day. We'd be eating breakfast. He's like, Landon, what are you? I'm the best putter in the world. Da, da, da. And for the first 1,000 times I said it, I didn't believe it. But then like the 1,001st time, I was like, I actually kind of believe this a little bit. And I started to notice that every time I missed a putt, I was like, that's weird. I should have gone in because I'm a great putter. And every time I made a putt, it confirmed my belief.
Yeah.
So I was able to like take that struggle, convert it into like a positive affirmation, and then I went made a 20 footer on 15, 16, and 17 the next week in a tournament and won 15 grand or something like that, and then went and played the Big Money Classic and played great and finished third and was supposed to make 20 grand, but the guy never paid us. But
That's great.
that's another story. But
That's
yeah,
great. That's a
does that,
great
does
way
that,
to
does
look
that
at it.
answer
Yeah.
your question?
Yeah, for sure. I mean that's you're almost tricking your mind essentially. I mean, it's kind of like how the whole I guess manifestation process works. In the beginning, nobody believes it. You're like you're in this slump, you're in this
Right,
position
exactly.
where you're just like, I don't know what's going on. I don't really like, believe that I can really do it. But then it's like, dude, like you got to believe you're the best. And then you just
Absolutely.
gotta keep saying you're the best, you're the best, you're the best. And then your brain starts to get conditioned. And that's the reality of all of us is you're constantly conditioning your brain. And the game of golf is a great way to condition your brain to do positive habits and to have positive habits. To me, the three main habits that the game of golf or virtues that the game of golf kind of like lays out for you are patience, commitment, and humility. I mean, those are the three things that I would say, if you really took a mindful approach to the game, you would become a more patient individual, you
Hmm.
would become a more committed individual, and you will become a more humble individual. And it honestly, if you feel like you're lacking on some of those things, I would definitely implement those intentions going into your next round of golf, your next practice session. Look at that, taking notes.
What'd you say? Patience?
Patience, commitment, and humility. Because, at the end of the day, if you're patient, you're going to feel at ease throughout the round. If you're committed, you're going to gain your level of confidence through every single shot that you hit. And if you're humble, you're just going to have the energy flowing your way. And, it's like, and the last part is huge. A lot of us, we finally hit that shot and we're like celebrating all this stuff. And then there's 10 straight in a row that are just pathetic.
Oh, dude, the humility is huge. Like you
Huge, bro.
you
Huge. Like,
you never
that's,
own golf.
yeah.
Like, and this is a trap that I'll see so many people fall into is they're like, oh, I shot my best score last week. I own golf. I own it. No, you just rent it. It's always rented. You know what I mean? You just got to keep on paying the man. So it's like like that approaching golf. Like I have some of my clients will ask me. It's like, oh, what do you expect to shoot today, or what do you like what would be a good number for you today? I'm like, dude, I just want to get the ball up in the air and going forward. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like you're so good. Like what? I'm like, dude, like golf is hard. It's a hard sport. If I go into it being like, I'm gonna shoot 65 today, then the golf is just gonna be like, fuck it, get out of here, bro. Like
Yeah.
no, that's not how this works. Like if you walk in and be like, you know what, I did a really like, you can still be proud of yourself. You can still be like, hey, I did a really really good job of committing to my process. I committed to my physical, mental, and emotional goals. Or intentions, and I was able to hit the shot that I wanted to. That was awesome. I'm so much better than I was last year.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But it's not like, oh, I don't have to deal with my physical, mental, and emotional intentions anymore because I already own it. I feel like that's where people go to when they lose the humility of it.
That's so true, man. I mean, and all paths lead to the same ending. Stay connected to the process. That's it. I mean, if you're connected to a process, you're going to be more patient because you're not impatient about worrying about where the ball's going to go, what's going to happen. You're controlling your thoughts. You're going through a deliberate process for each shot. When you stay connected to the process, you're enhancing your commitment because you know, okay, like I know what I'm going to think. I'm committed to this. I'm going to do it. And then stay connected to the process just keeps you humble because it's like, regardless of what happens, I'm just going to keep going and it's going to happen again. So, what a pod, Landon. I really appreciate you being on.
That's it?
We're
35
at
minutes?
the 35-minute
Oh, I
mark,
got
man.
I got I
You
got I
know,
got another
it's
hour in me. Let's
2024.
go.
It's 2024. We gotta, appreciate
Joe
people's.
Rogan does 3 hour podcasts. Come on, I listen to us for 3 hours.
I would, but maybe we'll give him just 4 segments. First one, we're getting to know Landon Michelson, the connected instructor, his philosophy behind, how he stays connected and what he's got going on. But dude, I really appreciate you being on. You've been, really instrumental to my success over the last few years, helping me understand the game on, on a physical level, and a mental level. The emotional level, we're still learning. But also, I mean, that's what the game of golf kind of brings out of you. It gives you the truth, and it'll punch you in the face, and it has no mercy. So, that's kind of what I've learned through my process, and what you've kind of shared with us today, as to what you've been through. So I really appreciate it. Any last words?
Yeah, no, I always love talking to you, man. You always have very interesting insights. They're always in threes. Tends to always be like
At least
monetize, optimize, realize. There's always three of them, which I always appreciate. And you have such a unique way of thinking about like the process of golf, and the staying connected is our brand, and it's definitely something that is true to us and true to you. So thank you very much for having me on, and got to have you on my podcast too.
Yeah, we got to go out there and make it happen. Go check out the Connected Instructor podcast, guys. We're both launching it really at the same time. He's got a couple episodes ahead of me.
It's a
So,
race.
uh, yeah, so it's gonna be an interesting journey as we get into this world and interview other, people in the golf world, just people not in the golf world that like golf and want to be involved. Just interesting minds and getting to dissect their process, their mindset, how they stay connected to who they are. Appreciate you, Landon.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
See you guys.